1997, Pinon Barcelon won the assignment of a lifetime. She was an art restorer, and she was asked if she would help restore Da Vinci's The Last Supper. This was huge. This was huge. You know, this is a wall fresco that Da Vinci painted where Christ and the disciples were gathered around the table, and it's painted at the moment where Jesus says, "One of you is going to betray me." So it's at that moment. And it's 500 years old. And over time, dirt, grime, soot from candles had just covered this thing. And then, to make matters worse, when bits would disappear, artists would come in and try to correct it. And they destroyed it more. And some would come in and they'd begin to fill in bits and pieces, and they'd you know, just kind of go outside the lines, and it was a real mess. So she got this job, 1977. It took her 24 years with a team of people to restore this thing. Here's a photo of it. This is its restored state. They would, first of all, they photographed it. That took about 9 months, section by section, piece by piece. And then she and the team, with microscopes, would work on it. And she said this: it was a slow, severe conquest which, flake after flake, day after day, millimetre after millimetre, fragment after fragment, gave back a reading of the dimensions of the expressive and chromatic intensity of what we thought was lost forever. On a good day, they'd complete about a postage stamp. The rest was just slow, painful work. It's finished and revealed, and you can see it now. It was locked up for 24 years. You can see it now, as it was originally painted, or close. It emerged that Matthew had blonde hair, not black, as they did it. Andrew's expression was changed from a sullen look to a shocked look, because this was the moment Jesus had said, "One of you are going to betray me." And Jesus' face glowed. Next 2 months, March and April, I hope what we're going to achieve is to go back to Scripture, go back to the Word, learn about Jesus, the untarnished, the real. You know, over time and over history, we get this impression of Jesus. Over time and over history, our culture has taught us certain things about Jesus and God which aren't really there in the Scriptures. And so one of the things I hope we can achieve in the next 2 months is just to go back to the Word, go back and say, how do I get to know the real God of the Bible? How do I get to know the real Jesus of the Bible? How can I be a disciple of the real Jesus? What would that look like? You with me? Get rid of all this stuff. You know, the cultural things you find in the Last Supper, there are some details that are incredibly wrong. It's late afternoon. The Passover always happened at night. The faces around the table, you can see it on the screen, they're European, pale European faces, not the dark Semitic faces of Jesus' culture, Jesus' area. There's no lamb on the table. Every Passover meal has a lamb. There's bread on the table, but it's a puffy loaf of bread, not a yeast-free loaf, an unleavened flat bread. And worst of all, what someone said, a shockingly unkosher plate of grilled eels garnished with orange slices. Culture had gotten in the way. So let's be real. Let's get back to the real story of God and Jesus. Scrape away the preconceptions. Scrape away the blurred lines. Our plan is to go back to the source and be real about it, to the Scriptures, get the unvarnished picture. And we're going to take our time about it. We're taking a measured approach. You know, we could have said, okay, let's get together for a Sabbath afternoon, Sabbath morning, afternoon. No, tick a few boxes, and then we'll go away and say, we know about being a disciple now. We know about what it's like. You know what? We'd forget it pretty quickly. What a 2-month approach allows us to develop lifelong habits. You get that? It allows us to develop lifelong habits. And that's why Sabbath mornings will be emphasising it. We'll be emphasising the fact that you can have daily readings and worksheets to work through, because we're challenging all of us to spend 30 minutes a day with Jesus for 2 months. That could be the beginning of a lifelong habit if it's not one of yours now. And then we're encouraging you to be part of a small group. We want this to be something significant. Not something that's just same old, and we go away and do the same old, but something that's life-changing. We're talking about being a disciple of Jesus. That's the theme, about learning to be a better disciple. So let's talk about being a disciple. Here are some things that a disciple is not. First one, being a disciple is not being a follower of a set of beliefs. Now, let me say, a disciple, of course, follows a set of beliefs. But that's not what being a disciple is about. That's only one aspect of it. Being a disciple is not about being a follower of a certain lifestyle. Of course, a disciple lives a certain lifestyle, but that's not at the core. And thirdly, a disciple is not about being a follower of a mission. And again, of course, every disciple has a mission, but that's not at the core of it, of discipleship. Let me tell you what being a disciple is. It's being a follower of a person. A rabbi in Jesus' time, and remember, we're trying to scrape away what's caught up in the picture of Jesus through 2 millennia. We're going back to his time. A disciple was a follower of a rabbi, of Jesus in this time. In Jesus' time, disciples didn't really only want to know about what the rabbi believed, or what his mission was, or what his lifestyle was. They wanted to do what the rabbi was doing. They wanted to be what the rabbi was. And that's different. Here is a complete package that they were following here. This is where the beliefs come from. This is where the lifestyle originates. This is where the mission is born. And remember, we're talking about followers, not about fans. See that fan? Jesus has a lot of fans. Jesus has a lot of fans. You know, people who see him as a great moral person. People who see that his teachings just had depth and meaning and changed how people thought about each other. But they don't see him as God's son. They don't see him as the saviour of the world. And it makes you wonder how they can see him as a great moral teacher if they think he was lying about those things. Jesus is not after fans. He's after followers. It isn't about being a fan. It's about being a follower, a close follower. There was a saying in Jesus' time that a disciple was one who followed so closely to the rabbi that at the end of the day he ended up being covered in the dust from the sandals of the rabbi. That's how close a follower it was thought of in the time of Jesus. So it's about being a follower. And one of the important things is that anybody can be a follower. Anyone can be a disciple. Back in Jesus' day, if you wanted to be a disciple, you had to apply for the job. Back in Jesus' day, only the best of the best became the disciples of rabbis. You would front up to the rabbi and you would say, "Rabbi, Master, I want to be one of your disciples." And you would be quizzed on your abilities. You'd be quizzed on your understanding of Scripture. You would be quizzed on where you lived, how you lived, your family, the whole works. And then the rabbi would thoughtfully process the information and get back to you. Yes or no. Jesus comes along, turns that whole thing upside down. I mean, he goes to a couple of young fishermen. And, I mean, in that time, any young man would want to be a disciple of a rabbi. So these men, these young men, as fishermen, had probably been rejected. You know, the ones that John West had rejected. They really did not match up to the rabbi's standards. And Jesus comes along and says, "Come, follow me. Come, follow me." This is an amazing moment in that era. I like what Rob Bell says about Christianity and disciples. It's like a movement of anybody's, and he calls them the not good enoughs. Jesus calls them to be his disciples, and they change the course of human history. You see, even today, we are called by Jesus. Not because of our talent, not because of who we are, not because of what we've done, but because Jesus says, "Come, follow me." By the calling of Jesus, he's about changing the world, not with an elite team, but with us. But with us. Try him and see is the point I want to get across today. There are two dangers. And I'm going to get out of the way so that our drama team can actually share those dangers with us. And yes, they are there.
I am the vine.
He's the vine. He grows grapes, and we can sell those grapes to the rich people and give the money to the poor. And Jesus, he's the vine of knowledge of good and evil. He's got round like Jim. No.
Now go and share this knowledge.
No, teacher, I need to learn more.
The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed.
Heaven's like a mustard seed. It's really, really small. And a little bit spicy. Not too spicy, because everyone will love heaven.
Now go and share this knowledge.
No, I still need to learn more.
All authority in heaven and earth has been given unto me.
No, I have to stay.
Now go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey everything that I have commanded you. And remember, I am with you always, unto the end of the age.
Learn the ways of Jesus. Love as he loves you. Share this with your family and friends.
To learn the ways of Jesus.
Love him as he loves you.
Share this with everyone.
Did you get it? The two dangers I guess you saw was we get what we think is the message and we go and do it too quickly because we haven't had the maturity to be able to spread it properly. And the second danger is just keep hearing the message without doing anything. But join those together. Followers listen and act. Acting without really listening can be dangerous. Listening without acting does nothing but bring dishonour to God. Today we begin to unveil what makes a disciple by understanding three very basic things. We need God. We know we need God. There are times when we really know we need God, where there's nothing that we can do to help the situation, whatever it may be. Way back on Black Saturday, 2009 was it? I think it was. We were living in New South Wales, knew nothing about what was happening here. It was Sabbath. Received a phone call mid-late afternoon from a friend of ours who happened to be visiting family at Kinglake. And they said, will you pray for us? Will you pray for us? And they told us about the fires that were coming. They said, we don't know what's going to happen. We're here. We're in the house. We can't get out now. It's too late. Would you just pray for us? And we did immediately. And we turned on the television to see what was happening and saw the horror of the thing. Had no idea up to that point. And here was a family at a stage where nothing else could help. And they could only turn to God. And you know, we waited 3 days before we could contact them. And you know better than I do the damage that was done, the trauma, the loss of life. 120 people died in that particular area, and several more in different areas. And we were trying to phone them. We just couldn't get through. 3 days after, they finally got through to us and said, we're safe. We're safe. Houses on either side had been destroyed, but they were safe. Was it their preparation? I guess that had a bit to do with it. Was it God? I think that had a lot to do with it. But we all know that we go through moments when we need God. And it's important that we understand that, because it says, you know, no matter how smooth our life is going now, if it is, there's going to come a time when we have no control over it. There's going to come a time when we will need God on side to help us to survive, to help us cope. Try him and see is the message of the day. We can find God. Notice the text. For I know, famous Jeremiah text, Jeremiah 29, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. In those days when you pray, I will listen. If you look for me wholeheartedly, you will find me. I will be found by you. Seek me wholeheartedly, with a full heart. With a full heart. How would you like if the coach of your team said to your team, whatever team that is, Port Power, how would you like it if the coach of your team, it's half time, and your team is behind, and the coach says, you know, we didn't do very well the first half. We're going to have to try harder next half. Look, you've got to give it at least 75%. What would you think of the coach? You would want him sacked. You want a coach that gets out there and says, give it 100%, give it 110%. God here, through Jeremiah, saying, do it with your whole heart. Try the bank. Go to the bank with your mortgage and say, yep, look, I agree to the terms, but I'll give you 95%. Okay? You'll lose your money or your house, right? There's no middle way. Couple stands before the pastor, and the pastor says, do you, Jeffrey, take this woman, Georgia, to be your wife, to have and to hold, to love and cherish for as long as you both shall live? And he says, mostly. Mostly. I think if you were there, if I was there, it would be the time to go up and just take Georgia out of the room and say, find someone else, right? God says, through Jeremiah, he says, search for me 100%. Be a part of me 100%. Don't play with this. Don't just make out, but really, really get into this. Seek for me. Make a commitment that's worth something. Wholehearted, not half-hearted, not quarter-hearted, and you'll find him. Try him and see. Try him and see. And finally, God is with us. And notice this particular passage from Isaiah. Don't be afraid, for I am with you. Don't be discouraged, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will hold you up with my victorious right hand. Now, this is a message to Israel. But Jesus repeats it, Matthew 28. Behold, I'm with you till the end of the age. So he's here, he's with us, God is with us. It's a promise, something that we simply have to accept. He is with us. Whatever our situation, wherever we're at in life, whatever stage, God is with us. You believe that? Yeah, he is. He's with us. Even when you're at your lowest, he's with us. And because we can get so caught up in the everyday, sometimes we just don't sense it. We don't sense it. I've stood beside the bed of too many sick people who say that they have a sense that God is with them in their situation, to not be able to say, God is with you in any situation. He's there. Low points, high points, we can be on a high and forget he's there, but he is. He is. He's always there. Try him and see. Look, during March and April, we want to have another look at being a disciple, being a follower of Jesus, a 100% follower of Jesus. Want to strip away all the clutter that's gathered over time. Want to go back to the real Jesus, to the Bible, back to the original, to the simplicity that's there when followers of Jesus simply followed Jesus. You with me? This is what we're trying to do. Love for you to sign up for the journey. Be a part of it for the journey. Won't you do that? Be here Sabbath mornings as we hear the message of the week, as we present the message of the week. Follow the daily study guides. We'll email them to you, or you can collect them here. And by the way, you'll find in the back of the pews forms to do that. And you could create or join a small group for discussion. And during the last hymn, the deacons are going to come around with extra forms. They'll have biros so you can just fill it out, and they'll collect them after church this morning. So just join us on this journey. Some of you already have, and you were emailed out yesterday. Please write the emails properly. I had 2 bounce back and I still can't work out what the writing is. So, just write them out so that even I can read it, all right? But it begins today. This journey begins today by choosing to seek God first in every detail of our lives. Wholehearted, 100%. Committing ourselves to daily time with God. 30 minutes a day in His Word, and claiming the reality of God's presence with us. He's here with us. We can believe it. We can act on it. The message of the day is, try Him and see. There's this little story that appears in Acts chapter 4 where Peter and John go to the temple and they begin preaching, and it causes a stir, and they're arrested and they're brought before the Sanhedrin, the Jewish court. And as the people are questioning them, the text says that they are amazed at the boldness of Peter and John, because they knew that they were fishermen. They were humble men, not learned men, not scholars. And it has this little line where it just simply says they recognized them as people who had been with Jesus. Is it too much to dream that we at Lilydale Church could become recognized as people who have been with Jesus? What a goal that would be. What a thing that would be. And I hope during this time of looking at being a disciple, we can head down that track. Let's pray. Father, we do want to seek you out and try. And Lord, as we begin this journey of opening our hearts up to come closer to Jesus, be a closer follower, we pray for your guidance. We ask that your Spirit will be part of our journey. Lord, we commit ourselves to you. And as we leave this place, may we demonstrate that you are in our lives, that we are followers of you. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.